Hello, so I want to talk today about how to upsell existing clients into your tax planning services. So this is a very important topic because one thing that I learned earlier on in my career was that most times the easiest people to get to want to work with you is someone that's already working with you, because if you're keeping your promises to your client, if you're doing a really good job, then you're going to be getting reciprocity built up and you're going to be building a lot of goodwill inside of your existing clients. Now, this is what causes clients to stay with us for years and years and years, whether you're doing bookkeeping services, tax prep services, tax planning services. This is what caused them to want to keep coming back to us, because we've helped them in the prior year and now they want to keep moving forward. And this is the stuff that I've learned from running my accounting and bookkeeping business since 2015. So close to about a decade now, and it's been a very, very, very rewarding journey. I'm super grateful that I stuck through it when things were tough so I could actually get there. Now, if you want some help growing your tax planning business, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you have both either tax planning services or you offer bookkeeping services. Either way, if you want help getting more tax plan clients, I encourage you to go ahead and click the link inside the description either above or below the video to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of our mentorship program. So let's jump into this thing. So how to upsell existing clients. So number one, I always want to go, and every time I'm working with a client, whether I'm doing only bookkeeping or for no bookkeeping and their tax prep, I'm keeping a list of every single either deduction they could have taken, every expense that they have either done or that they did not do, and I'm taking a list of every single thing that could help them save money on when moving forward. Okay, this is super, super important. One of the worst things that you can do is like you want to upsell people and you have to go and scramble to go and find stuff. Like you want to keep a very detailed client file. And if you have never tried to offer tax planning services in the past, I totally understand why. Maybe you might not have this kind of information just kind of like sitting there available, but moving forward, for every single one of the clients, I would literally have just a folder. You can either have a spreadsheet per client or you can have a Google document per client, whatever the case might be, whatever's more consistent and easy for you. But I'm keeping a running list of every single thing. Even if it's not in the most organized manner, I'm keeping a list. So therefore, when I'm ready to go and make my upsell presentation or my exit interview presentation, I have something I can show people that shows like what could they have saved, right? And then we can start making the plan moving forward. And actually, like most people, when they see what was already taken out of their pocket, most people are more motivated by the fear of loss than they are about like the fear of gain. So in a lot of cases, business owners would actually move forward because they feel like they're losing money to taxes than they would from like maybe wanting to like go and gain more money from like getting more sales. So the more that you can show what they missed out on or what was actually taken away from them, that if they had just done things correctly, the more they're going to want to do it next year and do things correctly. Now, one thing to note is that when you're doing this upsell process and upselling existing clients, like some of your clients will in the moment be upset with you. They might say like, why are you upselling me this thing? Or why are you doing this? Or I don't want to buy anything else from you right now. And like, I just want to do my tax. Like, it's okay. It's okay. One mistake people make is that they feel like every single person has to be happy with them. People will still work with them if you make them unhappy for 1 second. I've had it where like literally a person would be annoyed that I try to upsell them, but then they'd still come back to me for the next year for either bookkeeping cleanups or compilations, or they'll come to me for tax prep. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter how people feel, because like most people have very low emotional control or intelligence. So as soon as they feel something, they're generally going to either like lash out or they're going to like go fight, flight, or freeze mode. And once they're over that, then they just kind of go back to the regular like baseline emotions. Right? So it's like in the moment, if they're upset with you, it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things, because they will eventually change their mind. Now, in a lot of cases too, some people it takes them a second to some people want to know what they're getting into, and depending on how you're doing the upsell process, it could make it more of a surprise versus less of a surprise. Now, my goal today is to show you how to make it less of a surprise so that it's easier for us to get them to want to work with us without necessarily having to do a lot of objection handling. So I want to make sure that we can, keep track of that. So next thing is like, why do we upsell? So again, like I talked about earlier, the best person to sell is someone who you've already sold to. You've already overcome like the hardest area of sales, which is like the initial trust barrier. So most people do not buy from someone because they do not trust them. So as soon as you have broken that, whether it's like a low ticket item, like they bought a book from you, they did tax planning with, or sorry, tax prep with you, maybe they did like some bookkeeping, or you like did some hourly consulting, or you set up their QuickBooks, or you did some payroll, whatever service you can do that's at least $1 that they've already paid for, that is 90% of the battle that it takes for them to actually want to work with you. So when you're able to do that, it just makes everything so much easier. So now you have that. The goal is just to maintain that trust while you're working with them in the service. Now, if you're doing a very simple black or white service like bookkeeping or tax prep, then they're already going to be happy with you. Okay, so again, next thing, what is the goal? The goal is to make more money with fewer clients. Okay, it's not always about having 1 million clients. Sometimes it's about how high can we drive that lifetime value of a client on average. So the process to do this. So number one, I'm going to start with, if you already have some existing clients, we call this seeding. Seeding, like you're almost planting a seed in the person's mind. So if you do their books, you see their expenses. Okay, so if you're doing the bookkeeping, you see their expenses each year. So you should start knowing if you have particular industry that you work with. So for tax planning, I actually do like niching down for tax planning, because you can almost make like a chart of accounts, but for the tax plan. So like within the industry, you know, like what are like the majority of the time, like what are the deductions that are going to be taken. You can basically like have the same plan be utilized for multiple people while slightly tweaking things. So number one, you see what their expenses are. So you see what they could be doing, you see what they should be doing, you see how they're doing expenses, but maybe they're not doing their expenses in accordance to like the tax code. So it's like they can't, maybe if they have another CPA who's doing the books or whatever, then they're unable to really take advantage of a lot of the options that are available to them if they were to have planned prematurely, or if they were to do some proactive planning. If you do their taxes, then you know the actual deductions that they either used or the deductions that they missed out on, right? So either way, whether you do their bookkeeping or whether you do their taxes, you can start to see the opportunities that are sitting there in front of them, right? So what I would do, again, make the running list of both of those things. The goal is to be able to have something that we can present to the clients to show what would have been possible if they planned ahead. Remember, it's all about, like, a lot of people are very reasonable. And they're very logical, right? When you start talking like business owners, even if they're a W-2 employee that has like a side hustle, they're generally going to be more on the logical rather than like the emotional side. So as long as you can show them logical proof that what you're saying is true, a lot of people will be like, okay, this makes sense. What do I need to do to kind of fix it? Like most people are not very unreasonable. It's like, you know, if someone has seen like the picture of like gums, right? And they see that their tooth is matching like the, 6-month chart before gum disease, they're probably going to do something about that, right? And they can, as long as they can see it, they can understand it, they can then go and buy into it and kind of move forward and get the help they need. So you have to be in charge of showing it to them so that you can help them make that next step, which is to go and get help. Let me move this a little closer. Cool. So next thing, I like to do interview style. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that you can do the upsell process. So the first one is like while they're still working with you. So I call it the exit interview. The second way is through the pseudo coaching call. Okay, so we'll talk about exit interview first. So most people, if you're doing a compilation, or if you're doing like their tax prep, I would recommend doing an exit interview for people that are going to be like the highest candidates for tax planning. If it's a very simple individual return, okay, I might not do an exit interview. But if I know that there's an element or an opportunity for tax planning, I'm going to immediately, once I have like taken on the client, probably about a week or 2 weeks into it, and I know exactly what the end date is going to be for their returns, I'm going to schedule an exit interview on both of our calendars, and I'm going to get them to buy into coming into that exit interview. Okay, the key there is the buy-in. You don't just want them to be kind of like half-heartedly looking. You don't want them just kind of like just not show up. So you need to make sure it's a very, very like, make it a point in your onboarding process to talk about the offboarding interview. Okay, this crucial point. So while we're inside of this, okay, so I'm always, again, keeping that list. I'm then going to make a presentation about like what are the different things that they either missed out on, what are the things they could have done, what could they have saved, and I'm utilizing that to be able to make a very compelling argument as to why they should do tax planning either for this coming year or, you know, just moving forward, like they should do tax planning. If they don't do it for this like immediate year, maybe they can do it next year. I'm just trying to seed their mind that this is a possibility and this is the direction they should be going. I don't really care when they buy. Ideally, I want them to buy like, you know, right then and there, but if they're not really willing to do so, okay, cool. As long as they're looking forward to the future. Now, this is exit interview. Now, in some cases, some of you might be trying to upsell existing clients. So, you know, moving forward, you have your process where if this is like the first year they're working with you, then you can implement that exit interview process, like if they're still there. But what happens if you have some existing clients who either have not worked with you for a while, or you just did a cleanup for, or maybe you did tax prep, but they didn't come back with you this year? Okay, so I like to do, at first I used to call like out of the blue, but really what I like doing now, what I like call them is like pseudo coaching calls. So I first did this in 2022. So there was two things that happened in 22. It was around July of 2022. I basically had bought like this like marketing program, like how to like go and like utilize like Facebook and YouTube to grow my business. And then about 4 or 5 months later, the person who owned the course basically hit me up and was like, hey man, do you want to do oh no, that's what it was. It was after a testimonial. So basically I was like, yeah, you know, I'd done really well in that program. I added a pretty good amount of money to my business. So I went on that interview, and after the interview was done, the guy basically cut off the cameras and he said, hey man, so like, you know, let's do a coaching call right now. I was like, all right, cool man, awesome. So I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, yeah, this is cool. So we did the coaching call, basically talked about, you know, so hey, you know, this is great, this is where you are now, and like, you know, he was like, yeah, so like, what's kind of your next goal? I'm like, you know, this XYZ ABC. He's like, oh yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. And like, what are some challenges you're kind of like seeing that are like stopping you from being able to get there? And I'm like, well, I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this, and I'm thinking this. He's like, well, dude, maybe I think it can help you, man. As you know, like we do have this like upsell program, and like basically it's like blah 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 blah. Yeah, man, is that something you want to do? Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Oh yeah, it's $20,000. Oh. And in that moment I was like, that's a lot of money. But since I already had got the testimonial, like I'd already done the testimonial because I already did so well, the way he kind of see it was like, you know, that you could use the money from the past stuff that have already either saved you or made you into this this new program. And I was like, yeah, cool. So I did it, and like yeah, it worked okay. It wasn't as good as like the first program I'd done with them, but you know, it wasn't bad or anything like that. It actually, the stuff that he taught me in the upsell program worked a year and a half later, but slightly different than what we were like learning inside of his program. So the whole point of that story is that you can do the same thing. Now, for me, I personally do not like doing it off a testimonial. Because I don't know, it just kind of felt kind of like weird and off-putting to me. It's not that you can't do that, and like it's not a bad thing. I would do it, but instead for me, I like doing pseudo coaching calls because like I ended up having to do it because I had a bunch of people that I hadn't talked to in like 3 months to a year. So I was like, it would be weird for me to be like, hey, do you want to give me a random testimonial? So what I ended up doing instead was I ended up just doing like pseudo coaching calls. So I'd just like call up some of my people. So I did two things for that one. For some of them, like it was right around like November, like Thanksgiving. So I'd like call people and be like, hey, you know, how's Thanksgiving going? Just checking in with them and just like see how things are going. And yeah, it was a lot of calls, right? But it's like whatever, you know, it's free money. So for some of them where it's like, you know, I basically was ascertaining like what do they want to do, what are they excited for in the new year. The people that like really had like either a goal or like they felt like they paid too much in tax or whatever, they would kind of tell me like what were their like main problems. Like, hey man, you know, if you want, maybe let's just schedule another call and see like maybe if I can either help you out or if maybe I can just kind of point you in the right direction. They said yeah. So on that call, we basically went through, you know, like where are you going, where are you at now? what are some of the goals you have set out for yourself? Like, you know, how much you want to save in taxes, how much you want to do here, how much you want to do here, like, what do you want to see here, like, what do you want to do with the bookkeeping, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, basically, once you have that, it's like, you know, what problems do you kind of see that are stopping you from doing that? For most cases, if it's going to be like something around like tax planning or saving on taxes, it's going to be a knowledge gap, right? So they just don't know what they don't know, or they don't have the skill to be able to do what they do, or they might have the assumption that they don't have the skills to do it. Right, because if someone really sat down and like read through the tax code and stuff like that, they could get an understanding of like some deductions, some different things they could do. They couldn't do everything, right? But they can do a lot, right? So they're going to have the assumed just that it's just too hard, they just don't want to do it themselves, or just they can't do it themselves. Either way, it's good with me. It doesn't really matter why someone thinks they need my service, as long as they think they do need my service, right? So from there, it's I think I can help you out. And then basically last year, so if you've already been working with them or the last time you worked with them, go back and pull up that list, basically talk about like, you know, what did you kind of see? What are the things that, you know, they were missing out on? And then outline what is your thought process for the outline of your planning services. So I don't necessarily want to give them the plan on that call. I want to outline like either the steps that we'll take to go and get the plan or what is involved with working together. If you're inside of our training program, like we do teach you a sales script of like how to present it more as a game plan. I'm just giving you the overview in case you're not working with me on this video and you're watching and like you're trying to build this for yourself. So I'm just giving you the overview. So I would generally either do it in the form of like an outline of what general plans have been like in the past, or generally a game plan of what it would take for you to build that plan together and then execute on that plan together. I like the game plan style more. It just gets people like future pacing, gets people more excited for what's to come, rather than just like feeling like you're just selling them information. Like you want them to be like basically buying into a journey when they're working with you, not just buying like this like just random plan, this pie in the sky kind of thing. After you do that, so you can then start talking about the pricing. So depending on what the person has purchased from you in the past will determine what you say. So if they've done like a $20,000 cleanup, okay, your $5,000 to $10,000 tax plan is not really gonna need that much seating. If they paid, you know, just for a basic tax return, like maybe didn't even do the business tax return, like you might need to start talking about pricing. So a couple of different ways that I do that is, number one, I see if they've ever paid for tax plan in the past. In a lot of cases they wouldn't, or else they might either still be with that person, there's a reason why they didn't, right? And like, if you haven't seen the video in this other YouTube series about like objection handling, I would check that out as soon as possible. But or if you're inside the training portal, we give you like customized support when it comes to objection handling. Like, let's say that you did a consultation call, you got a very specific objection. We generally show you how to eliminate that objection in the future, so you can increase your close rate and get more people to actually work with you. All a close rate is like the number of people that the number of consultation calls you take and the number of clients you get, right? So the number of clients you get divided by the number of calls you take, essentially. So higher percentage of that, the more people you sign up out of, you know, let's say 100 people. And that's really important over the course of a year. So generally for me, I like to explain that generally for investments, you want to be able to set the stage for people to understand how to think about your service and how to think about just spending money in general. Because a lot of people, even if they're in business, sometimes they think of different investments and different returns in different ways. So some people might think, you know, they pay $1 and they get $2 back. Like with advertising, most internet advertisers think they put in $1, they get like $2 to $3 back. Okay, so if you have something that you're going to give them, that it's going to give them $50,000 and you charge them $25,000, they're good. Some people, they're expecting, like, you know, they put in $1, get $100 back, right? That's not always the case for most investments, but that's how some people think about certain investments. Like if they think about, like, I hire an employee, they go and give me 100x return per year, right? So what I like doing is I like doing the 10-to-1 relationship of savings versus cash ratio. So if they put in $1, they should expect to get like $10 back in general. And the more we can kind of frame the relationship around that, the easier it is, because when you then say your price, which is generally going to be about like between about 10% to 30% of whatever you're going to save them. And again, like you don't necessarily frame it in that way that I'm just getting like take 10%, but it's like it's implied when they say, okay, well, we think we can save you this much, it's this much, right? So they're going to do that math in their head if you've already set it up and taught them how to think about that. Now, it can be hard if your sales skills are not great. It can be hard to kind of explain that ratio in a very convincing way. So ideally, if you have any content, you want to put that inside the content before they even get to the call, so they automatically think in those terms. So when you want to explain to someone, it's like it's a reminder, not a lesson, right? It's easier to remind someone of something they've already believed and they already bought into than to teach them a new lesson while you're there, because then they have to, some people, they can't just like hear something and move forward. Some people have to absorb it, they have to think on it, they might argue with you first, then accept it. So it's like you're just adding more to the equation if you do it later in the process. Once you do that, you do a soft close. Okay, so soft close, very simply, like most people are going to say no, especially if like, let's say you did like a base return for like $300, right? And then you're offering something for $5,000 or $10,000. Some people are gonna be, you know, a little bit hesitant, and they might say no, but again, they could be fight, flight, or freeze mode just because they're nervous about the price. And it's okay if that happens, right? Because you don't necessarily have to close on that and there. They're already working with you, so you know they're gonna come back for something. They're gonna come back for their bookkeeping, they're gonna come back for the tax planning. It doesn't really matter, okay? They're not necessarily mad at you, they just have to kind of get an understanding of what it is that you're offering. In that case, there's two things you can do. Number one, you can do some light objection handling. Number two, you could send them an information packet. If you don't have an information packet or a sales call follow-up like document, I'm going to show you how to build that inside of our program. Like we show you exactly how to do that. So like for me, for example, I don't really do a lot of objection handling. I more show people proof of exactly what I say is true. That's all you need to do. Just because some people are like, well, can I really save this much money? Or some people are like, well, can this really be happening? Or, you know, it's a lot of money, is it really worth it? Right? So if you can just get them to understand that like what you're saying is true, that you can actually save them this much money. Because you gotta remember too, a lot of people don't think you can save money in taxes. Like it's not like, it's knowledge that some people do, but a lot of people think they need to be like the rich or the famous to do it. They don't know that like everyday people can do that as well. So if you can really show them that it is possible for them to be able to do it, then they're going to move forward with you at a much faster, much higher rate. So just kind of get an understanding of that as well. Cool. And then that's how you basically do your process, okay? Hopefully you learned something new from this video. If you have any other questions, make sure you can reach out to me on school. If you're in school, you can ask me inside the comments below. I love to like get an answer or give an answer to you to help you out as much as possible. It also will give me ideas for future videos because I can add more details to the video over time. Also, if you want some help implementing this in your business, if you want to be able to go and get some tax planning clients that pay you between $3,000 to about $10,000, go ahead and click the link inside the description, either above or below the video, to book a call with myself to see if I can help you inside of our mentorship program, okay? I'd love to help you out. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day.